Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making rabbit stew and salsify mash. Starting with the roots, they are very earthy and very sticky once you peel them though, so that's why I am wearing gloves. I'm peeling them in my sink because as you see there's a lot of earth on there, and the peeled parts I'm going to put into this bowl of water with a tiny bit of vinegar in there just to prevent them from coloring. Salsify is a lovely winter vegetable and I love to use them as a substitute for potatoes in mashes and stuff. So if I don't have sweet potatoes or I want something more earthy, more rustic in my dinner, I'm using these kinds of roots quite a bit. After that, I'm just putting them aside and I'm cutting off the leeks, just removing the parts that I'm not going to use, washing them, and then slicing them into about 1 centimeter slices. Then I put them aside, and the next thing coming up is a rabbit. I'm getting my rabbit, it's a whole one from my butcher. So there's still the lungs and other parts in there. So I'm just unwrapping it and then I'm checking what I'm going to use for the stew and which parts I can use for some stock that I'm going to make on my own. So I'm just taking a closer look what's in there and what was removed. And then I'm taking a very big knife, and since I'm a small person, I have to use quite a bit of force, and I'm sorry that I'm in camera, to cut the back legs and also the middle part of the rabbit, getting rid of all the inner parts first. And these 4 pieces I'm going to use for the stew, or the rest, as you can see on the lower left-hand side of the screen, will be cooking for quite a bit to make some stock. So in my pan with a bit of olive oil, I'm adding the pancetta chunks first, and then I'm adding the rabbit parts, browning them, just letting them sit there for maybe, well, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is and how big your chunks of rabbits are. I'm having the meat on high heat to have it really brown and crispy on the outside. Moving the parts and flipping them only once, otherwise leaving them just in the pan browning and the pancetta also getting very crispy. Once that is done, I'm removing all of the rabbit parts and also the pancetta from the pan. Just putting them on a plate to the side. And I really love this recipe. It's a lovely, lovely stew for winter time. It's very hearty and rustic, but still has a fruitiness to it just because of the cider sauce. Once I have all of the parts removed, I'm getting rid of a bit of the oil. There was just too much in the pan, that just all the fats that came out from the pancetta. And then I'm adding a tablespoon of butter. It's okay to have a bit more if you have large leeks that you are using, just as I do in this recipe. They are fairly large, so it's okay to have a bit more butter. Just letting it melt, taking care of the rabbit stock meanwhile. And then I'm adding the leeks and reducing the heat to medium on the stove and just letting them go soft and sweet and silky. Just making sure that all of the parts are coated with butter before I leave them alone for a bit. Once the leek is browned a bit and softened and sweet and lovely, I'm adding back the rabbit and the pancetta. Then I'm adding the cider and half of the cream, so about 125, 150 milliliters, just eyeballing. And then I'm seasoning the stew with salt and pepper and a bit of thyme. I'm using dried one because there was no fresh one in my store. Not in my store, but in the grocery store I go to. And I'm adding about 1.5 or 2 teaspoons of thyme here. You can always add more at the end, but since the sauce will reduce quite a bit, I'm being quite careful with the amount of thyme. And then I'm stirring it once more before I let it sit for about 45 minutes on a low heat, letting it simmer and bubble away. Occasionally I'm stirring the stew, but only in the beginning until it's boiling, and then I'm reducing the heat, so only then I leave it alone. While I was away in my studio working, my husband visited the kitchen and, well, you can see he already likes it. About half an hour in, I'm adding the salsify to the pan, or the pot, I should say. I'm taking it out of the vinegar water, and then I'm adding fresh salted water to the pot and bring it to a boil. I have to remove the rabbit stock, or the pot where the rabbit is cooking, for the stock from the stove, because I only have 2 big burners. But later on that night I finished making the stock. You can see the rabbit is only simmering very, very slightly on the upper right hand corner of the screen. And this way you don't burn the leeks, but have the meat get very tender and very soft and lovely over time. I put the burner on high heat, and then I'm going to let the salsify cook for about 15 minutes. about 5 minutes before the cooking time is done, I'm adding a tiny bit of parsley to the rabbit and I'm not stirring, just letting it sit there. Once the salsify is cooked, I'm removing it from the salt water and I put it into my food processor to make the mash. And I'm taking 300 grams away from the pot here because I need it in another recipe that you will see next week. Be very careful when you remove the salsify from the pot and put it into the food processor. It's very, very hot, so please don't burn yourself. Next, I'm adding the remaining cream, some nutmeg, and a tiny, tiny bit of lemon juice to the roots. I'm also adding a bit of butter just to make it silky. And then I'm just blitzing everything up until it is a nice smash. I always pulse the thing first that I'm trying to make a mash of, and then I'm having it on constant rotation. Once that is done, the cooking is finished and I can start plating up. I hope you enjoyed watching along. Try this recipe, it's really, really nice and yummy. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. And let me also know if you tried it and enjoyed the food. Have a very good day. I will see you next week. Goodbye.